Hi everybody, welcome to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Noelle, I'm 19 and I post modeling and lifestyle content. If you're not new here, welcome back, you already knew that. Today's video is going to be 10 tips for any aspiring models. I feel like this year is a year where a lot of people are finally reaching for their goals and taking the right steps to do the things they've always wanted to do, including myself. I have a lot of goals and resolutions I'm working on personally, so if one of your goals this year or for a while has been to become a model, these are my top 10 tips I would give you as a signed model. I know these types of videos normally attract a lot of new subscribers, so if you are new here, again, my name is Noelle, I'm 19 and I'm signed with Wilhelmina Models, both in Miami and Los Angeles, but I work based in Los Angeles as of now. I have made some other videos similar to this. I have actually a playlist on my channel of all of my modeling videos. I think it's just called Modeling. If you want to check it out, it's going to be on my channel under playlists. Again, if you've never been here before, I am signed. I've been modeling for about a little over 3 years, so I have some tips and advice, and I just like to share what I've learned. Obviously, I'm still early in my career and there's a lot I have left to learn, and I'm learning more every time I go to work and every time I connect with other models and talk to my agents and everything, but I just feel like it couldn't hurt to share what I already know now, and I think it could really help anybody that's looking to start a new life for themselves and wants to explore modeling and see what that looks like. I'm also wearing a shirt, but it keeps on coming down, so don't be scared. I'm not wearing a shirt. First tip I have for you is to thoroughly research a bunch of agencies before you just start applying. So I know for a lot of people the first step is, oh, I'm gonna submit to a bunch of agencies online. This is super easy. I'm just gonna send pictures to as many as possible to get the best results, which in most cases that will work. Obviously, the more agencies you apply to, the more likely you are to hear back. But I wouldn't necessarily recommend that for everyone, especially if you're new and starting out and don't know what agency is known for what. And I've said this before, but a lot of agencies are known for different things. So some agencies represent like curvier girls, some agencies focus more on the social media aspect of modeling in this industry. So there's a lot of agencies, but they're all kind of different in their own ways. A lot are obviously similar. I would really recommend to do your research and read reviews and research the agency thoroughly before you apply. Or even if you want to apply and then research, that works too. I mean, if you apply and then you hear back for an interview or a callback and you're like not really sure, I would really suggest researching. One really good place to do that and to learn quickly is TikTok. I know it kind of sounds weird, but TikTok is a really fast way to get quick information to learn, like, okay, are they good or bad? A lot of people probably share their experiences with the agency if you're not sure, so I would really recommend that. I also have a TikTok if you guys want to check it out. I will leave it on the screen somewhere. It's the same handle as all my social media, just Noelle Martinez with 2 eyes. And sometimes I'll post like modeling videos, showing some stuff on set, things like that. So if you want to see any of that behind the scenes stuff, be sure to follow. But I just think it's really important to know what you're getting yourself into, because not every agency is legit. That's the first thing. And it's really easy to not see that at first and to kind of be in a too late type of situation where you're signed in a contract with an agency that you don't like, or that, is maybe scamming, or is not paying you, things like that. There's lots of issues that can arise with those type of things that you don't think about in the beginning. So my recommendation, just to be safe, is to thoroughly research every agency before you apply, or I mean before you go in to see them and sign any contracts, I guess. Very sincere apologies if the angle changed. There's like a smudge on my camera and I'm trying to make sure it's not messing up the video, because I'm gonna hate myself for that when I'm editing it. So my second tip is to have as much confidence as possible before you get into anything in this industry. I know this is already talked about a lot in modeling, but confidence is going to get you the furthest. Being confident is your main tool in modeling. You have to be confident to believe that you're good enough to book this job, or believe that you're good enough to get offered a contract, or whatever it is. You need confidence to build off of. And not saying that you have to only have confidence and that's it, but it's gonna be your best friend when you're trying to land contracts, book jobs, castings. Obviously everyone has different insecurities, and confidence isn't easy, but again, you almost have to be confident to a certain extent to succeed in this industry, and you can just fake it till you make it. I think a lot of people follow that mindset, and not even just in modeling. Confidence is so important. That's definitely a key thing to know before you get started, and to make sure that, you know, you say your affirmations, know your worth, all those things. So confidence is key. The next point I wanted to talk about is that you need to really be mentally prepared to be torn down and to feel insecure and to hear really harsh things, because as much as I hate to admit it, that's a big part of what we do as models, is we get criticized, and our job is to sell product without being, you know, a business person. You're selling the product by how it looks on your body, or how, you know, the makeup looks on your face. Whatever you're selling, whatever brand you're working for, you are the person that's supposed to make it look good. So when you're not making it look good, you might hear harsh things, or especially at castings, I know some girls have said they've been told really hurtful things. But at the same time, I do want to clarify, a lot of people make modeling seem like it's the most intimidating thing ever, and that every casting director is going to insult you, and that you're going to get yelled at, and there's a lot of misconceptions in that area. And I want to clarify, yes, you're going to hear harsh things, yes, you're going to hear things that will make you insecure sometimes, unfortunately, but don't be scared and don't think that you're going to be torn down by every single person, because there are a lot of positive and great people I've met in this industry. So it's kind of important to know both sides of it. Just be prepared mentally and be strong mentally to do this job, because it can be really tough at times, and there are some days where you're not going to feel confident, but you just have to fake it till you make it, and not let anyone tell you anything that's going to make you determine your own worth. If that makes any sense. I'm not wording this in the best way, but you get the point. Next, never let rejection kill your motivation. You will literally hear thousands and thousands of no's before you hear your first yes, and I know that's another thing that's widely talked about in modeling. There have been a lot of cases I've heard where girls will be super, you know, anxious to get signed by an agency, visit with a bunch, they all say no until one says yes, and they become super successful and have an amazing career. Like, there's so many stories out there like that, and it's so important to not let anybody's inability to see your potential impact your belief in yourself, because sometimes people won't see your potential, but if you know your potential and you know how far you can go, you can make something happen. So just make sure to never let rejection kill your vibe. I go to so many castings that my agency sends me on, and a lot of times, you know, it's a 50-50 thing. I never know if I'm gonna get the job, but if I don't hear back and if I don't book the job, I don't beat myself up about it, because I used to kind of be like, oh, I wonder why they didn't pick me, like, what did I do wrong? I thought they loved me, we were talking, they were so nice, whatever. But the thing that's really helped me kind of move away from that mindset is realizing that the client is always looking for a super specific look. When they see the right girl, they're gonna know immediately, and if that's not you, it's not your issue. Like, they're looking for something specific, they already have it in mind what they want, and if you're going to a casting and you get rejected and you're like kind of down about it and you were hoping you would get it, literally don't sweat it at all. You're gonna go to so many castings and go on so many interviews with agencies. You're gonna be told no and get rejected so many times before you hear a yes, and that's okay. It's not always like that, but a lot of times you have to be comfortable knowing that you're gonna get rejected, and that it has nothing to do with you. Next thing you should know is that making connections and talking to people in the industry is so important. I cannot stress this enough. Arguably more important than confidence. I don't know, they're kind of like on the same level for me. It's always about who you know, not what you know. Obviously, everyone knows that, but especially in an industry like modeling, I have found the industry to be really small, and you never want to burn bridges. It's always good to reach out a helping hand or talk to people when you can, and offer yourself and include yourself in conversations, because you never know who that person knows and who's friend that person's friend is, and you know what I mean. It's like you get these connections from such weird ways, and I can't even explain the amount of connections I've made just based on the shoots I've done and the people I've met. I actually have a really good example of this. I used to be signed with a different agency in LA about like 2 years ago, and I was really close with the agency director, so like basically like the director of operations, the director of the agency, whatever. Him and I were super cool. He was a great guy. We always had a good relationship. and eventually I left the agency and signed a contract with Wilhelmina. But 2 years later, I find that the same director at my old agency is actually the new director at Wilhelmina, New York. So it's like these little networking moments are so important, and the more people you know, the better, especially if it comes down to like who's gonna get booked for a job. If you know the casting director and you've worked with him before, you're a lot more likely to book the job. So things like that. Personally, I find myself always fascinated by how small the industry is because I keep crossing paths with the same people, or I'll go to castings and then end up booking a job with the same girl the week later. Like weird stuff like that happens all the time, and it's always really important to network and to make friends and be friendly. Why not? The worst that can happen is somebody doesn't want to talk to you, and that's fine. And honestly, like being on set is such an amazing way to bond with someone because most times it's only you and a couple other models. Sometimes for bigger campaigns there's a lot more people, but usually it's like just a couple of you. So it's a great time to bond and a great way to get to know someone better. And networking is super important. Even if you're not signed yet, just getting to know certain people in the industry is so important. Not sure what number we're on, but next one is do not let the traditional model stereotype look throw you off or make you feel unmotivated to get started or to apply to agencies, because the industry is so extremely different now, and I think more people are finding that out. It's not uncommon for there to be girls that are short now, or curvier, or with hips, or more realistic looking, and that's the best thing we could have hoped for. I mean, a lot of the famous models that people see that, you know, they stereotype as the model, like what you're supposed to look like, are super thin and super tall, and it's just not realistic anymore. And so if you're looking for the perfect time to get started, now is your time, because never have we seen an industry shift like this one, and I think it's great, and I'm really proud of the industry for finally being a little more realistic. Not saying that every brand is on board with that, but I would say a lot of brands are shifting their target audience to a more realistic person. This next tip kind of goes in hand with the other one I just talked about, but make friends with other models and reach out to other models as much as possible. I feel like Instagram has become a really good place to DM girls and to get to know other models. I actually have a lot of other models DM me asking like, hey, how was this photographer? I know you shot with him. Like, would you recommend shooting with him? Like, were his pictures good? Was he professional? Did you feel comfortable? Things like that. And it's great because you get to know certain things you wouldn't know otherwise. Same thing that goes for if you're in a class and you're not sure what the homework was or whatever. Reaching out to a friend in the same class will help you out, and you'll also make a good friend. So I think this is kind of obvious, but just making sure that you're always being friendly and open to talking to other models, especially if you're not in the industry yet. It's really important to get around those people and to hear what their story was, or maybe, you know, tips and tricks that help them a lot. And especially hearing that from someone one-on-one is really important. And the amount of advice that I've gotten from other models from my agency just by reaching out, or them reaching out to me, has been really important and really useful in my career. So you can't go wrong with being friendly and outgoing, for sure. My next tip for you is to practice posing as much as you possibly can until you're so sick of it. This is something I'm emphasizing because I didn't realize how big of a deal this was until I started my career and had no idea how to pose for a photo. The only experience I had was Instagram photos taken on an iPhone. And obviously that's not good enough experience to know what you're doing on a professional e-commerce set when you're shooting photos and getting paid to shoot good photos. So I cannot say this enough. If you take anything from this video, let it be that you need to know how to pose before you start working, and before you can honestly be confident as a model, you have to know your poses. And this is still something I'm working on. I still learn my angles every day, and the most important thing and the best thing you can do is to just sit in front of a mirror all day and pose. And I know how ridiculous that sounds. I promise it's not coming from a place of being vain. It's literally because that's the best way to get to know your angles and your face shape and your body, and to know what poses are flattering. And I know it sounds ridiculous because I used to think like, oh my god, posing is so easy. Like, how could that be hard? What? Like, what do you mean I have to practice? I used to think it was ridiculous. And then I started modeling and I was like, wait, this is crazy. Like, you know when you're taking Instagram photos and you're like, your friend's taking photos of you and you're like, oh, I don't know what to do. Like, I'm kind of awkward. Like, how do I pose? It's the same feeling times 10 because everyone's watching you and relying on you and waiting for your poses. Also, a lot of poses that work for a lot of other girls don't work for me. Vice versa. Something that I do on all my photos is not going to work for the next girl, and that's fine. So it's all about just learning your own angles. Every model is going to be completely different, and this is also a really good skill to practice while you're waiting to hear back from agencies, or you know, if you're just getting started. It's great to just practice as much as possible. This is something I really worked on in the beginning of my career a lot. I kind of struggled with, you know, learning my angles, learning how to move in front of a camera. It's also really intimidating on your first couple of jobs when you have like a crew of 10 people staring at you, cameras, lights flashing, you know, having to move super quick, get the photos done, have tons of looks to shoot. It can be intimidating, and I feel like that's something that's not talked about enough. So as long as you know your poses, you'll be okay, but you have to practice. And again, cannot emphasize this enough. It just really is the best feeling to be super confident in front of a camera and know your poses, hit every single pose, be super confident that they all look good, and to have like a little dance that you do almost. For me, when I go on e-commerce jobs, I already have like a set couple poses that I always do, and then I'll obviously communicate with the photographer and see what other things they need or if they have something specific in mind. But having your go-to poses is so important, and you won't know what those are until you practice in front of a mirror. So seriously do that if you're about to start modeling or just getting started. The next tip or thing to know is that having a strong social media following will really make you more attractive to agencies, which for some people might rub them the wrong way, but social media is taking over our world as we know it, and this is very obvious. It's very clear with TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, everything. So the more that you're on social media like YouTube or TikTok or putting yourself out there, the more likely you are to get noticed, and the more likely your agency is to be interested in you, because they can tell you're being outgoing and being part of something that's slowly becoming bigger and bigger every single day. Also, a lot of ads are run digitally now, and print is slowly dying off, which makes me sad, but everything is digital. And so if they see that you're part of social media and that you're making cute TikToks or, you know, posting frequently on Instagram, that's gonna make you look a lot better. So basically, being part of social media cannot hurt. My last tip is to be extremely cautious with test shoots, photographers, interviewing agencies, all of that, because as a young girl, there are so many scary things that can happen and sadly have happened. I've talked about this in my other video. Being safe and making sure that someone knows where you are at all times is so important, and a lot of my castings are in warehouse garages in downtown LA, and as a young girl by myself, that is terrifying. So making sure you have like whatever you need to feel safe, whether that's like a small knife, pepper spray, whatever you gotta do, someone on the phone while you're walking towards your destination, whatever it is. And this doesn't just apply to modeling, this applies to literally anything being a young girl. Make sure to be safe and to always give consent to photographers. If they're asking you to do something that you're not comfortable with, don't say yes just because you think you have to, because you don't have to say yes to everything. This is really something I want aspiring models to think about and to be really mindful of, because it's super easy to get manipulated into thinking like, if you do this naked photo shoot with me, I'll get you signed to a big agency. And some girls believe that and will do it, and then end up in a situation that they sadly put themselves in without knowing. So not saying that anything that extreme would happen all the time, but just being mindful cannot hurt, especially when it comes to men and creepy photographers and bad situations like that, given how dangerous the industry is. And unfortunately, a lot of bad things have happened. So just be really careful, especially when you're in the process of getting signed. There's a lot of scammers and things that you don't want to get tricked into. So be super careful, research as much as possible, and you should be good. All right, you guys, that's it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed. I love making videos about modeling because this is something I'm really passionate about. Obviously, it's my job, so this is something I'm learning more about every day and have a good understanding of. So if you guys ever have any questions, or you know, or want to double check something, or want to ask how I got started or anything like that, my DMs are always open. A lot of you guys actually have DM'd me before, which I always appreciate. I will always respond. Don't hesitate to reach out if you have questions or want to know something. My DMs are always open, and so are the comments. Also, if you guys have any other video ideas or suggestions pertaining to this topic, let me know, leave it down below. Or you can always comment any other suggestions you have. Maybe it has nothing to do with modeling. Whatever it is, leave it below and I will get back to you as soon as I can. Anyways, that is all for this week's video. I love you guys so much. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys next Wednesday. Bye.